Good morning, students. In this case, we're going to try to summarize chapters 7, 8, and 9 from Animal Farm by George Orwell. Hope this can eventually help you for your study material on your fourth bimester exam. Always cold and usually hungry, the animals labor to rebuild the windmill over the long, hard winter. Napoleon rarely leaves the farmhouse. Squealer makes all his announcements and informs the hens they must produce eggs to sell so that the grain can be bought for the animals to eat. The rebellious hens, led by three pullets, go on strike, laying their eggs from the rafters to smash on the floor. Napoleon starves them into submission, and 9 hens die before rebellion is over. Anything that goes wrong on the farm is blamed on Snowball. Squealer against counts on the growling dogs, and boxers believe that whatever Napoleon says is right to persuade the animals that Snowball had always been in league with Jones and was a traitor at the Battle of the Cowshed. He warns them that there may be other animal traitors in their ranks. A few days later, Napoleon calls a meeting in which the dogs attack the 4 pigs who had earlier protested Snowball's guilt. Under pressure, they confess to spying for Snowball, and the dogs quickly tear out their throats. The hen ringleaders of the strike confess, as do several other animals, and all are promptly killed. When the shocked animals gather together for comfort and sing Beasts of England, Squealer silences them and states that the song has been abolished. It is unnecessary now that the rebellion has been achieved. When some attempt to protest, the ship's bleats drown them out until discussion time has passed. So let's try to answer together these 4 questions. Eventually, you already have as a homework assignment, but in this case, it's always good for you to compare your answers to guarantee you have the correct ones. So on question number 1, how does Napoleon react when the hens rebel against his orders? Well, in this case, he orders the hens food rations cut off, right? If any other animals give any food to the chickens, they are to be killed. The dogs enforce his orders. 9 hens die of starvation before then hens give up their 5-day protest. Question number 2. Why does Napoleon revive the threat of the farm being sabotaged by Snowball? Basically, Snowball is the perfect scapegoat, the one who can be blamed when something goes wrong. It is not the pig's fault when a storage shed key is lost, or the cow's fault when they don't give much milk. Is Snowball's fault. They need an outside enemy to hate, someone that they can accuse in place of wrongdoers. Snowball is discredited totally through the use of lies and false accusations. The other animals want to disagree but cannot, and finally give in and agree with Boxer that if Napoleon says it is so, it is because Napoleon is always right. Question number 3. Explain why the animals confessed to being traitors. Or is there any explanation? The 4 pigs who are taken first are the same 4 who have disagreed previously with Napoleon's decisions, right? So in this case, they probably are guilty or not of not wholeheartedly supporting Napoleon's policies, and certainly they do not expect to be killed for it. There is a resolution against animals killing one another. However, death is the punishment. Next, the 3 hens who have led the egg rebellion confess, as do many others, to crimes against the state. All the dissidents are killed on the spot. Probably most of them did not support one or more of Napoleon's policies, so in that sense they were guilty. They undoubtedly expected forgiveness rather than death. However, death might be seen as a release for these poor animals at this point. No doubt, a certain amount of mass hysteria will have contributed to the large numbers of confessions. And question number 4, why does Napoleon order the animals to stop singing Beast of England? The rebellion is over, and the pigs are in control of the farm. Even though the rest of the animals seem too dull-witted to realize that the pigs are just as bad as Mr. Jones, one might finally realize that one rebellion was not enough and lead another rebellion, this time against the pigs. The bleating of the sheep keeps any of the animals from protesting. One of the last traces of the society envisioned by Major is now gone, replaced by a patriotic song about Napoleon, leader of Animal Farm. On chapter number 8, when some of the animals think to check the commandments, they find that the sixth now reads, "No animal shall kill any other animals without cause." They accept the deaths as perfectly reasonable in light of the rule. Though the animals are working harder than ever, they wonder if they are any better off than they were under Mr. Jones. Yet, Squealer quotes figures that seemingly support his statements that production has increased. Now, when Napoleon appears, he is attended by the dogs and a black cockerel who marches in front and crows before Napoleon speaks. Napoleon has his own apartment, eats from the best china, has 2 dogs to wait on him, and orders that the gun be fired on his birthday. The windmill is finally finished. Napoleon sells a stack of lumber to Frederick and insists on being paid in £5 notes. After the lumber is carted away, the pigs discover the money in counterfeit. Frederick and his men then attacked Animal Farm. Armed with rifles, the men force the animals to flee. Only Benjamin realizes that they are going to blow up the windmill. When it is destroyed, the animals throw caution to the wind and attack Frederick's men, who kill several of the animals and wound the others. After the animals chase the men off the farm, Napoleon orders that Jones' rifle be fired in a victory celebration. The injured boxer questions the victory, but Squealer assures him they have won back their farm and will rebuild the windmill. In celebration, the animals are given extra food. The pigs discover a case of whiskey and get very drunk. The next day, a hungover Squealer announces that Napoleon is dying. When Napoleon recovers, he sends for books on brewing and distilling and orders the field originally designated as the grazing plot for retired animals to be plowed up and planted with barley. The fifth commandment now reads, "No animal shall drink alcohol to excess." So now here we have 4 of the first questions related to chapters 8 and 9, and number 1 says, what purpose is served by the production figures Squealer reads to the animals? The pigs fool the other animals by manipulating facts and figures to prove they are producing more and are much better off than they have ever been before. So basically nobody can dispute those facts. Well, not even today. Question number 2, how is Napoleon becoming more and more like a typical dictator? Well, in this case, um, first of all, we can say that he is rarely seen in public now, is always surrounded by his guard dogs, has an entourage that attends him whenever he goes out, has his own apartment in the house, has a taster for his food, and eats alone of fine china. The gun is also fired on his birthday, and he had added many titles to his name, including Terror of Mankind. Question number 3, we are going to leave it for now because it's a special activity that we are going to be trying to do on the live lesson. But in this case, the fourth one that asks to describe the sale of the stack of lumber, how does Napoleon outwit himself? First of all, the lumber is to be sold first to Mr. Pilkington and then to Mr. Frederick. Napoleon plays the men against each other until he gets the price he wants. He insists on being paid in banknotes, which turn out to be forgeries. And when Frederick attacks the firm, Pilkington, refuses to help Napoleon. Now, trying to summarize chapter number 9, we can say that although Boxer was injured in the battle, he still works as hard as ever in rebuilding the windmill. The animals are colder and hungrier than last winter, but Squealer again recites statistics to assure them that even with a readjustment of rations, they are still much better off than when Jones ran the farm. Since most of the animals cannot remember what life under Jones was like, they believe him. 31 baby pigs now wear green ribbons on their tails on Sundays and are taught by Napoleon, who has plans to build a schoolhouse. The pigs, fatter than ever, had learned to brew beer and receive a daily ration of it. Once a week, the animals participate in a spontaneous demonstration to celebrate the struggles and triumphs of animal farm, which helps them forget their hunger and misery. The farm is declared a republic, and Napoleon, the only candidate, is elected president. Moses the Raven returns with his tales of Sugar Candy Mountain and is allowed to stay. Hard-working Boxer finally collapses. He believes he and Benjamin now will be allowed to retire. However, the wagon that comes to take him to the hospital actually belongs to the horse slaughterer. When Benjamin convinces the others of Boxer's danger, it is too late. Boxer is too feeble to break out of the wagon on his own. Several days later, Squealer announces that Boxer has died in the hospital and has been buried in town. He reassures the animals he was there right at the end and that Boxer died saying Napoleon is always right. He explains away the wagon and assures the animals a memorial banquet will be held for Boxer. On the day of the celebration, a case of whiskey is delivered to the pigs, who have somehow found the money to pay for it. So before we get to the final chapter from the book, there are in this case, many study questions that you should be able to answer. For example, what makes the battle against Frederick's men different from the Battle of the Cowshed? Why do the men blow up the windmill? The animals celebrate a victory, but at what cost? Describe the whiskey incident. Why will Orwell make this scene somewhat humorous? Why are the animals so easily fooled even when they find Squealer with a ladder and white paint beside the barn at night? Another question to answer is what is happening to Boxer? What are living conditions like for all of the animals except the pigs and dogs? Why does Napoleon allow Moses to return and to tell his stories about Sugar Candy Mountain? What happens to Boxer? How do the animals accept it? Of what kind of person does Benjamin remind you? Give some examples. What is your opinion of such people? What makes people behave this way?